Shit deeper than rap. I woke up this morning too turned up, my nigga, I be ballin'. Big slim shawty, I don't do no fucking lease. Niggas dry snitching, wanna run to police. Put it on my knees, you gon' die before me. I put that on the T. Cross street, nigga. Where I'm from, we don't brag if we catch a body, nigga. That's just life. Real shit, nigga, that's just life. Watch out for your friends when they got a knife. Blood brothers, me and Woo the Kid. Rondo over here, no more hogging. Assist millions, that's real shit. I'm on my squad shit, flash go hard, bitch. They know my war story, yeah. Niggas know me. Walk up dumping, behind me. Everybody kill us where the bodies. In the hood, where you can find me. Blood brothers in the club, it's a movie. My hood, you can call it grimy. Lights, camera, action. Center of attention, mention Woo the Kid and Flocka. That's a check the E on fame. Family.
Yes, y'all. We back. We back at it. Had a marathon last night. Yo, I might transition to Twitch. Might transition, pause. So we're gonna get into it. Why the modern woman of the West is worth 75 cents. We're gonna get right into it. Let's go. Let's go. This is nuts. I was watching a bit of this yesterday. Shout out to DJ Khaled. Unbelievable. Hope you guys enjoy the new sound, the new audio, crispy audio. We got studio lights. We balling now. We balling.
And reminder, Andrew is going to be calling in a little bit
I'm so
later.
scared.
Yeah, be scared.
I'm
Be terrified.
scared. Andrew, I'm scared of you.
All right. So we're going to react. The first thing that we're going to react to, Mary, if you can pull up that article. This was kind of going viral, and I thought it was interesting. All right, so here, pause that video. I don't know what kind of bullshit they're. Okay, scroll up. 24-year-old Australian woman set friend on fire for making misogynistic remark. Scroll down. You guys might have seen this. That's good. Keep it there. An Australian woman allegedly lit her longtime friend on fire because he.
I talk about this all the time. You can identify this so easily. Look at these eyes. All you got to do to remove distraction is you just block out the bottom part of their face, right? And yo, those eyes are nuts. She's nutty. That chick nutty.
He made a misogynistic remark during a wild night of partying. A court heard earlier this month. Cordy, 24, pleaded guilty in court to the arson attack on Jake Loader, 23, saying she felt overwhelmed by his antagonism.
She felt overwhelmed. Oh no. So this Australian woman lit someone on fire, lit a dude on fire because he allegedly made a misogynistic remark. Now, you know, these Australians, first of all, they're criminals. They're descendants of a penal colony. So, I mean, hey, that's the stock we're working with, right?
Agonistic behavior throughout the night before she was finally set off by a sexist remark he made during a house party.
No offense, but it's just facts.
Party in New South Wales last year, according to the ABC. Scroll down a little bit. Loader told her she should. So the alleged misogynistic comment was she should stay in the kitchen making scones if she couldn't handle drinking with the boys, which sent the 24-year-old into a rage.
Yo, so this dude just made a joke. Granted, it was in poor taste, you know. He was definitely clowning on her. But she lost it. And she lit him on fire. He said she should stay in the kitchen making scones. Again, it's a joke in poor taste, but should you light someone on fire for that? Well, you know, with the current narratives that we have now, she believes that a comment like that is violence. So she acting in self-defense, I guess, in her opinion.
The court heard, according to the outlet, she grabbed a gallon of gasoline from the garage and doused the guy with a flammable substance, waving a lighter at him threateningly. Go on, do it. That's a kind of a stupid thing to say. It's like these, like, I don't condone violence, but if somebody's like threatening you with a gun, you probably shouldn't say, go shoot me, pussy. Like, you probably shouldn't taunt or provoke somebody who's got, who's threatening physical violence. What are you going to do? Shoot me? And then they get, look, you shouldn't do it, but come on. All right. He was drunk though, and he had consumed nose candy. She confessed, scroll down. Wapoli then touched him with a lighter, setting him ablaze. Loader sustained burns to 50% of his body and had some of his sweat glands burned off. He was put in a medically induced coma for 8 days after the attack, according to a victim impact statement read in court.
So this is wild. So she fully doused the guy in gasoline. I'd heard about this story. I thought, she just lit the dude, but she tried to off him. She tried to 8-6 him over a remark. But this is the thing. Like, nowadays, this type of feminist mentality, they feel emboldened to behave like this because they're encouraged online. They're encouraged by all kinds of media that, it's the mainstream narrative nowadays that if a man makes a remark that it's physical violence. They see this as an attack. Just a remark.
He required 10 operations and spent 74 days in a burn unit at a Melbourne hospital, according to the statement. Scroll down a bit. Suffered burns. The friend, he can't step outside because of the damage. She had been, I guess, drinking and taking substances. She claimed she was pushed to the edge due to his misogynistic comments. Tried to wrestle with her. The fuck? And was being antagonistic throughout the night. She feels horrible, remorseful. Scroll down. All right. Scroll down. I find it very hard to believe the injuries that were caused was from my doing. I mean, you lit the dude on fire. She pleaded guilty to one charge of burning or maiming by using corrosive fluid. So she's back in court this month for sentencing. So I want to go around the table on this, get the panel's reaction. So the allegations here are he was making, throughout the course of the night, various massage.
Total nut job. Total absolute nut job. So women will encourage this. Even if they're, kind of trying to be edgy or they're making comedy or whatever, they'll laugh at this, right?
Misogynistic comments, get back in the kitchen, something like that. And then she lit him on fire. Do you think that's inappropriate? I think it's a fair response, starting with you, going around the table.
I think if he's less misogynistic now, it's probably a net positive. But if he's not, I'd say it's a bit.
You see that comment? And this one's laughing. Like, this is directly a violent attack, right? And she's making jokes about that. The guy is maimed. The guy has permanent damage to his body, permanent burns. This is how they feel about y'all. Like, when I get online and I make these comments, I make posts on IG, they go pretty viral. We're not making this up. And this is this is real life interaction. Like, I know a lot of women will get in the comment section and say incel, say this, say that, say that, GAY. They use the GAY slur when someone doesn't agree with them. But on the reels, the more you interact with women, the more you see that they have this evil within them. Like, it's wild. Nowadays, it's just they don't respect men. They've been taught to not respect men. It's not that they've been taught. The thing is, people mistake, it's a misinterpretation of this whole feminist movement that we are promoting respect of women. That's not what's being promoted. What's being promoted is the disrespect of men. Granted, I understand in history, historically, a lot of women have been disrespected. I get that. But they don't want equality. They don't want to be respected. They want men to be disrespected.
Much.
What's a bit much?
Extreme for her to light him on fire.
Wait, so just to be clear, a man was nearly burned to death, and your knee-jerk initial reaction is, well, if he's a bit less misogynistic.
Net positive though, not
That's the. Wait, so when you say net positive,
and they're laughing, 1, 2, 3 in a row, all laughing
in totality.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, what she did was really awful, and like he's gonna have to suffer for the rest of his life because of it. But if like his casual misogyny is lessened,
it's a net
positive. Yeah.
See, like, look at this chick. And dudes will go on a date with this chick and try to smash. I'm telling you guys need to stop thinking with your little head. Because yeah, this chick looks good, she's attractive, but this is why I always suggest dudes when they're going on dates with chicks, you gotta chill with her for at least 2 hours. Because when you let these chicks talk, certain things are gonna come out and you're gonna hear some crazy shit come out of these chicks' mouths.
What's the math? What's the calculus on it being a net positive?
Let's say if he just stayed like super misogynistic and like got his friends together and they were all kind of like that, then they're kind of causing a lot of hell on women.
Okay.
So if he's less misogynistic now and he's not getting all his guys together to say
I
things
see.
about women, it doesn't affect.
I see.
his
So what you're
match.
saying is that serious bodily.
He's like a martyr, if anything.
So what you're saying is serious bodily injury, so long as within your
She just said that this girl who burned a guy with gasoline, an accelerant, is a martyr for feminism. This is how they see you guys. That's why when you get involved with these chicks on a lesser scale, men complain about the whole money issue and this and that. I have no problem with that because I believe it's the man's role. I've never gone 50-50 on a date. I believe it's the man's role to pay for the woman, to provide for the woman, right? If you're dating a chick with the intention of marriage, that's what I believe is the role. Traditional role, right? But imagine now if you're spending your hard-earned money, God forbid, but you're spending your hard-earned money on this chick who believes that over a quote unquote misogynistic remark, she should have the right to douse you in an accelerant and light you on fire. That's what they believe. That's what she believes deep down in her psyche. So imagine how she's going to treat you. Imagine the disrespect. When men get disrespected and they throw their hands up like, oh, I don't know. I don't understand what happened. This is because that's how these women see men.
purview, there's a well, just to be clear, I can't even wrap my head around the comment you've just made, but violent crime not as bad, or sorry, violent crime more bad than misogynistic joke.
Not
comment.
necessarily. I think it's more nuanced, I'd say.
Explain the nuance.
Because if you're constantly talking bad about women in that way,
sure.
or saying that women, should stick to these sort of roles,
Mm.
it perpetuates in the long term kind of violence against women in general on a grand scale. But also, just to be
See, this is the delusion. They truly believe this. They truly believe this stuff. And this comes down through modern academia. This is what these women are taught in these crazy deranged classes that they take. They take like these gender studies, they take these feminist studies courses. This is dangerous, right? This is why these modern Western chicks, I say, are worth 75 cents because I would never, never, never consider getting with a chick like this. And dudes be smashing these chicks and they get into all types of problems. Imagine this chick, she won't think twice about calling police on you, making a false statement, having you throw your life away because she truly believes that from making a remark that you have acted violent against her.
frank, I was kind of kidding, and it is wrong of her to have done that.
Well, I'm a bit confused.
Look at that. You believe her? Do you believe her? And they're laughing. These are modern witches, right? People like to talk about how they used to burn witches at the stake, right? This is why. These are witches. These types of people in society, they're not worth anything. These types of people, whenever I make these posts on IG, people get in my comments, they're like, "Oh, why do you have something against women? Why do you this and that against women?" No, it's not women, right? It's these type of chicks, right? Chicks that find this type of stuff funny are the people that I'm going after, right? When I make a post, I'm referring to these modern women. This is the type of thing because these women are violent and they're evil. This is the spirit of Lilith. It's the spirit of rebellion, so much so that they will commit a violent crime against a man because they feel that his language is violent. That's wild.
Confused.
And I won't apologize. Look, they find it hilarious.
You just said that there was
I said
nuance.
it's wrong
Hold
that
on,
she
hold
did.
on.
Okay.
No, I'm saying hold on to her. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just think in this specific situation, I'm not saying everyone should light men on fire because that would make the world better. I'm just saying in this instance, if it happened to make him less misogynistic, it's probably a net positive.
Do you know what that
But I'm not
means?
encouraging violence against men.
Right. So what you're saying is, yes, it was bad that he got lit on fire. What she
Yes.
did was wrong. But if the outcome is that he's now less allegedly misogynistic, that it was actually worth it that she burned him. Because in order for your statement to be true that it's a net positive, it would have to indicate that it's worth it, right? If it's a net
Yeah.
positive.
Yeah,
Would you kill Hitler, baby? Baby
this
Hitler,
is
excuse me?
too deep of a question.
If you could time travel back in time, would you kill baby Hitler? Because it would be a net positive, right? In your
Yeah.
worldview.
Yeah,
So you.
I don't have a definite answer on that, but I do denounce the genocide of the Jewish people. And
Okay, that's not really answering my question though. So the hypothetical.
I don't know, because what would
I don't know where Brian's going with this. I think it's a ridiculous link
happen if I killed baby Hitler and then like Mussolini did something even more extreme and crazy? Like I don't know.
Italian
Like I don't know
butterfly
the
effect.
yeah, I don't know the butterfly effect, but I would say if the only difference there is that Hitler didn't exist and then like the concentration camps didn't happen.
So
then
what's
sure.
your you did, I don't know if you're like walking back your position a little bit doing a Maude and Bailey, but you said that you're joking. Please be more specific though, because you're saying there's nuance to the situation. So again, is her act justified because of the net positive? Assuming he's going to be less misogynistic now, is it justified to some degree?
I'd say no, violence is not ever justifiable.
But you did say that the net
Well, yeah, if
positive,
we're talking about long-term effects on like what potentially his statements and actions could have caused against multitudes of women, like more than just one person.
and
then
is
I
this your
guess-
subjective opinion or like you
Well,
think objective?
obviously.
My question is, because they always like to talk about how they're diminishing violence against women. My question is, where was all this violence? It was not so common to see men abusing their wives. They like to paint it like every chick was getting beat down, every chick was getting chained up in the basement. Not so. Society was doing way better, and the children reflect that, because children reflect the parents. And the fact that people were growing up more respectful, well mannered, and less violent in general. You didn't have these events at schools, these violent events at schools. You know, the crime rate was way lower. Just look at the black community, for example. That's a perfect way to look at it on a smaller scale, because you could take it just from that subsection. As soon as the black community started experiencing this new wave of feminism, this quote unquote empowerment, putting women in the workforce, that's when the black community started to decline. Black Americans used to be respectful, they used to work hard, right? I'm not saying black Americans don't work hard, but you understand the point I'm trying to make here. Huge, sharp decline in respect and mannerism in the black community. And it's directly tied to this type of mentality, to giving the women this type of mentality to they want to be alone, they want to be strong, they want to be independent. A lot of the issues you could look at, even prison statistics. You know, it's well documented that men who grow up in single mother households are more predisposed to being violent criminals, criminals in general, and most of the prison population, they were raised by single mothers. This is documented.
Exactly. If it was objective, I think that would mean that if we just burned everyone who said that, then like the world would be better. But I don't necessarily think that's the case.
Okay. And so what if I had a position that feminist rhetoric is damaging, and there was a movement to basically like light on fire every single feminist, and if I could prove to you, like if I could demonstrate that it would clearly be a net positive onto society to burn feminists, you would then be in favor of that too.
If that were the case and you could prove that, then I guess technically sure, and like sure.
Okay, so as long as it's a net positive.
But I'm anti-violence, and I don't think this on a grand scale would actually.
Well, you yourself wouldn't perform or participate in said violence, but if like other people could.
Yeah, I
enact
still
the
don't
violence-
agree. Yeah, I don't want anyone to be lit on fire. I was just saying.
Okay.
It's potentially less harmful what she did compared to what potentially, but this is all just.
Sure. Let me.
yeah.
I wanna ask-
She's actually arguing this point. It's potentially less harmful. The woman directly harmed someone. Direct harm. So she is negating direct harm for the possibility of future harm. So when people make the argument that women shouldn't be leaders, this is exactly why. This is complete illogical, irrational thinking.
ask you this. So you're feminist, right?
Sure, if you want to classify it that way.
Well, what
If you want to classify, you think you should light a man on fire over his comment.
are you not a feminist?
Probably not in your definition. I care for like gender liberation. So
Gender, what's that?
just equality and equity for everyone. No
You see, this is how they mask it. This is how they paint it, right? They paint their violent culture, their gynocentrism, they paint it as equality. Whereas they can't name one thing that men have a right to that women do not. They can't name one thing. In fact, I could make the argument that women actually, when you're speaking about American women, they have more rights because they have the reproductive rights. A woman, if she gets pregnant, has the choice to keep the baby, terminate the pregnancy, whereas the man has only the choice of, well, you could argue that the man could walk out the door and never come back. Sure. But in terms of the pregnancy, the man cannot tell the woman to get an abortion because that's considered coercion and putting her under duress. And he cannot prevent her from getting an abortion, even though it's 50% his seed. So you could argue that women have more rights in these Western societies than men because they have every right that a man has, but they also have the reproductive rights.
no matter your gender.
But this masking of it, of trying to pretend that it's for equality, this is not equality. These women genuinely want to be above men, and that's why it says the spirit of Lilith. And a lot of feminist organizations actually hold Lilith as one of their figureheads. Lilith being the mythical story of Adam's wife, the first man, right? And Lilith she didn't want to be laying under Adam. That's how the story goes. She didn't want to be laying under Adam. She thought that she should be equal to the man. So she ended up leaving the garden. It's referring to the Garden of Eden. And she essentially put herself into exile. And she became a demon, basically a demon. And these women adopt that spirit. It's wild. And again, they like to paint it like, oh, you have something against women. No. Because my mother is not like this. None of the women in my close family that I grew up with were like this. They respected their family. The women nowadays, the Western women, they don't respect men. Women used to respect men and they used to take pride in their family. Because when you have a child, it's a reflection of you. And they used to be proud of their child. When you have a child that is well behaved, well mannered, and that child goes around, goes to friends' houses, goes to school, goes to whatever, when that child is well behaved, it's a reflection of the mother, direct reflection of the mother. And women used to take pride in that. But because these women don't respect men and they don't hold the family system in any sort of regard, they don't care. This is just selfish mentality. These women are just, they think of self, right? Whereas women of the past used to be more selfless, right?
Gender identity.
So you think feminism is not about gender equality?
Well,
What is
feminism
feminism?
historically, if we are talking about like first wave, second wave, third wave, had super specific like reason and outcome, like gaining the right to vote and
Mhm.
owning banks and property and stuff like that, or their own bank account. I think now we're in a different situation where we have, in a lot of ways, equal rights legally, but I think socially, women and men suffer in the structure that we have right now. So I'm pro gender
Okay.
liberation.
If you want to talk about socially, that's not going to change because men and women are inherently different. We have different strengths and different weaknesses. And that's a beautiful thing. Our differences are what make it beautiful. If men and women were the same, there's no diversity when everyone becomes the same. So the female male dynamic is a beautiful thing. Look at these girls. They're stylish, they're aesthetically pleasing. They're easy on the eyes. It's nice, they're beautiful, right? And they also have other qualities, personable qualities, right? Well, maybe not these women in particular, but women in general as an archetype, they have higher emotional intelligence, higher empathy. These things are extremely valuable in our world. Not everyone can be a top CEO shark.
So for everyone.
Okay, I think some people. And what do you think about? Are you in favor of deconstructing or dismantling the patriarchy?
Yes.
Okay, all right. I would consider you a feminist then.
Okay.
So I had a good follow-up question on this. Shoot, it's evading me though. I'm going to think about it. We'll come back to
Okay.
you. Your reaction to that article.
I don't like violence. I hate that. If she wanted to get back at him, she should have gnomed his house.
She should have what?
Gnomed his house or sent like
Mhm.
Jehovah's Witnesses
Oh,
or
okay.
like forked it.
Right.
Prank called.
Okay, got it. Oh,
Like-
I recall. Going back to you really quick, and then I'll let the rest of the panel.
I low-key like this chick, she seems like a victim of her surroundings. This chick, however, that chick is all bad. I can read it on her. She's attractive and she genuinely believes these things. This chick, I think she's kind of trolling, trying to be edgy. It's a bit, I see a bit of myself in this chick because I push the envelope too. I make posts that are a bit edgy. People freak out about it. But this chick genuinely believes this stuff. This chick, I believe, is evil. She holds the spirit of Lilith.
win on the thing. So going back to you, it sounded like, and this is perhaps going back to your argument about how net positive, right? So probably this is within the feminist purview. You might agree with the following statement, like women are victim of violent crime at men's hands. This is especially prevalent in like SA statistics and other sort of forms of like sexual violence and just interpartner violence in relationships, right? Would you say it would be a net positive? So for example, you could probably get rid of most of this, at least within your worldview, if you just got rid of men entirely. Would that then be a net positive to just get rid of all men?
No. I mean, technically, sure, if all the men weren't there, then who's doing the violent crimes and acts? Sure. But I think men are just as much of a victim in the structure that we have now. And that causes them to commit the violence, suppressing your emotions from a young age, putting specific roles on men as man of the house and man up and stuff like that. They tend to act out violently because they can't express their emotions, or they don't have a space like women do, where like we're known as being emotional, and like so we can kind of have that space together. Not that we're not judged for it, but still we're able to without being emasculated. So although men are the oppressors, it doesn't mean that they themselves aren't victims at the hands of the patriarchy too.
All right, I might get into some of that stuff a little bit later on in the show, but you said men are.
But I don't think that men are victims of themselves. I think that a lot of these modern talking points victimize men in the sense that some of these women now, these chicks that hold her views, they're actively oppressing men because women do have the upper hand, especially younger women. Women in their 20s, like I make posts a lot about age gaps on IG, and feminists freak out because I like to ruffle feathers and get conversations going. Feminists completely freak out and they say, "Oh, these poor little children, right? At 21 years old, 20, 21 years old, 19, these are considered children to these people." I disagree because women in their 20s are in their prime, right? They're in the prime of their physical attributes, which is really what men value, right? Is physical beauty, right? I'm not saying they all need to look necessarily like this chick. I'm saying every man wants a woman who is beautiful to him, right? A woman that's beautiful to one man may not be beautiful to another, but they still value a young, good looking chick, right? Like this chick. She's young and good looking, right? She's in her prime. She's in her 20s. This type of woman has way more power over a man that's her age. Because a man that's her age, he's not in his top earning potential. He hasn't developed mentally in terms of his social awareness, social intelligence, right? Women are magnitudes more socially intelligent at a younger age than men. So men really have to earn their value in life because our top earning potential or our peak earning potential statistically only comes around 40 to 45 years old for men. So, and that's what's most attractive to women is their financial potential, their income, and also their emotional intelligence and their social intelligence and their wisdom. These things are not developed until men are much older. So when we look at who has the power, who has the leverage, right? Because every relationship, in a sense, is, you could see it as, I don't like to compare it to a business deal, but relationships are, in a sense, a negotiation, right? Everything is a form of negotiation. Everything kind of brings in leverage, right? So a young woman with a young man has magnitudes more leverage. So when a man gets older now, things are more on an equal playing ground because the man now has choice. The man now has options, right? A woman of her age has magnitudes more options than a young man. Maybe they don't know that. They may think that men are out here smashing, but it's not as easy as a young man to get chicks as it is as a young woman to get chicks. But when a guy gets older, he's financially stable, he's in his peak earning, peak income, and he's developed those those social skills. He's developed a network. He's a bit more wise, he's a bit more savvy. That's when it's more equal between a woman in her 20s and a man, right?
Oppressors
Yes.
and women are what?
The
they
oppressed.
So just so I fully understand, men are oppressors collectively as a group. Okay, and women are oppressed collectively as a group.
Yes.
Okay, and you're a woman.
Yes.
Okay,
I
are you
identify as a
oppressed?
woman. Yes, we live under a patriarchy,
Yeah,
so sure. It's
But how specifically are you oppressed?
I think the main ways that I see it in my daily life is like the hypersexualization of women.
Mhm.
Men aren't sexualized in such a way, and then the
But the thing is, the more power that women get, the more sexualized they get. So who is really sexualizing women? Women are sexualizing themselves. Women didn't fight for the right to be not sexualized. In fact, you can make a strong argument that feminism benefits men more than women, because the only thing that really changed is that women are more loose with their sexuality. And again, that goes into why I believe modern women are worth 75 cents. They've lowered, this is going to be a hot take, and I don't apologize for these statements that I make, but women have lowered the value of pussy straight up. Supply and demand, right? When the demand was high, the demand was always at the same level. Men always wanted to smash, right? But the supply was lower because women were more reserved. Women were more um women were more or less inclined to quote unquote put out, right? Nowadays, women are taught that they're the ones doing the smashing. When they are not doing the smashing, they're getting smashed. We talk about the term ran through, right? Everyone likes to talk about ran through. I personally don't like the term. I don't use these online buzzwords. But if you want to talk about ran through and women get very upset on why men can't be ran through, well, it's very simple. Something that goes through another thing, a car going through a tunnel, a thread going through a needle, the biology is dictating which one is going through the other. That's just on a biological level, right? Women receive, men are givers, right? Even if you're talking about pregnancy, how pregnancy happens, right? The man gives the seed, the woman receives it, right?
commodification of that sexualization. So corn and OnlyFans, and it's seen as kind of like women empowerment, but I think it's just teetering a dangerous line of um, just like becoming that role of women in society.
Would you say the hypersexualization of women, and you said this applies to you yourself, is this systemic or is this on an individual level?
I think it's systemic. The existence of corn and OnlyFans affects every woman, no matter if they participate in that activity or not.
But wouldn't these industries also systemically impact men?
In what ways?
Well, you said OnlyFans, corn, they systemically impact women,
Uh-huh.
but then I would argue they systemically also would impact men.
I think so too.
So then men are oppressed systemically because of OnlyFans.
Yes, I'm not saying men have the ability to be the oppressors. I'm not saying that they aren't also oppressed in their own way as well.
Okay.
But it's at the hands of themselves almost, because they have the power to oppress and they're kind of putting it upon themselves.
But again, do men really have that power anymore? Because women now, all the women on OF, they're no one has a firearm to their head, right? They're doing this on their own volition. Because again, women know the power that they hold, and they downplay it. Feminists purposely downplay this because they want to believe that they don't hold this power. That well, actually, no, they don't. They don't. They're just dishonest because they know they hold the power because they hold it over men all the time. But these chicks go out on dates, they be manipulating dudes on the regs. A chick like this, nightmare, absolute nightmare. So they know the power they hold, but they're dishonest about it, and they pretend that they can't weaponize this stuff. They absolutely do. It's all over the internet. And every man that deals with women, they've seen this in their real life. Dealing with these modern women, they see this daily. This is how they behave. This is just normal Monday through Friday type behavior.
Can you clarify?
Not
what you mean a
individually.
little bit?
Just kind of the bro pilled ideology of like man up and get in the gym and this is what women want to see, and it's like all kind of they're not talking to women to see what women really want. They're just discussing amongst other men.
Wait, you think going to the gym is?
No, I'm just saying this idea.
Why did you mention the gym though? What is that?
Who would ask? Women don't know. They say one thing, but they want another. Women will say, "Oh, you should be in touch with your emotions. Oh, you should be not afraid to cry. Cry in front of any chick, and she'll lose respect for you. You cry in front of this chick, she's dipping. This is the type of chick. This chick will ghost you if you cry in front of her. She's not fooling anybody. You think a chick looking like this wants a dude that cries? That's quote unquote in touch with his emotion? No, I would love to see the dudes that this chick dates. I would love.
That
Well,
has to
just
do with
because I'm thinking about the internet and how that kind of gym content kind of pushes you into this field of like bettering yourself, but then you get into like these
are
conservative.
you against men bettering themselves?
No, I'm just saying it's kind of like a rabbit hole that you go into on the internet.
Physical fitness is a rabbit hole
Yes,
for extremist
yes.
right-wing
Yes.
propaganda.
That's a hot take. Going to the gym makes you based. I don't think I would disagree with that.
Yes.
Strength training, weightlifting is
A lot of the times, yeah.
a slippery
it's-
slope to
yes.
right-wing propaganda.
Yes. Because
How?
it's, I mean, think of like Andrew Tate, like he's all about self betterment and all of those kinds of things. And that's super similar.
Do
and-
you know that Hitler was also a vegetarian? Do you think like vegetarians?
I'm talking about
also-
media as it is now, not simply because you go in the gym and get.
That's such a hilarious point. It's like, okay, so because that dude works out and he's into fitness, that means that any dude that works into that works out and is into fitness is aligned with it. That's actually eye opening, because the chicks that come in my comment section and say, "Oh, you're an incel. Oh, you're this or that," they truly believe that. And now it's getting a bit more clear when this chick talks. When she opens her mouth, I get some clarity to how these deranged chicks online feel, because they really think that if you have any semblance of traditional value, which a lot of it is cultural, and this stuff is this is thousands of years old, but they truly believe that you hold these values because you watched a couple videos on the internet. Unbelievable.
Stronger to better yourself, you become good. I'm saying like the pipeline on the internet is kind of algorithmically leads you there.
Yeah, but just because Andrew Tate advocates for like strength training and getting in physical shape, I don't think you can draw from that then, oh, any sort of advocation towards increasing your health or physical strength would indicate that you're like going to go down some like right-wing.
Yeah, I'm just saying that's
pipeline.
mainly what I've witnessed.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
Do you think that your scope is a bit, and yeah, it's just a bit narrow-minded? And I'm sorry, like it's a little awkward.
No, that's
you know,
fine.
Nothing against you.
No.
But, because of social media, right? Like for example, if I only watch the whatever podcast, I may think, all people think in this particular manner, right? Sorry, I wasn't speaking in the microphone. If I'm only seeing Andrew Tate, and my algorithm pops up more stuff like that, right? And I don't agree with that, I might think that all men operate in a certain way.
That's a great point, because I say that all the time. When you watch podcasts like this, you take it with a grain of salt, because this doesn't reflect all women. Once again, women like her, although it's becoming more common, it still doesn't mean that all women think like this. This is the type of chick, she's watching Wizard Liz, she's watching the Sprinkle Sprinkle Lady. When in reality, look at those women's situation. Wizard Liz, she just got cheated on, right? Some dude knocked her up and she got cheated on. Why? Because she only values money. She found a millionaire, right? And she couldn't have had that many options if she jumped to marry the first millionaire she met in 4 months. This is a chick that did not come from money. She did not come from an upper class background, but for some reason she has, this large appetite for luxury lifestyle, right? A lot of women follow suit. That's why you got to be very careful with these chicks that just value material things and they're looking for a lick, right? But then you have this other lady, the Sprinkle Sprinkle Lady, who her husband is not some Chad. Her husband is not a Tyrone. Her husband looks like a deacon from Sunday school, deacon in Sunday service. He's not built like that. He's not necessarily a sculpted male like what these chicks think they're gonna bag, right? So yeah, he's taking care of her. He's sprinkling, right? He's sprinkling all up on that chick. But the women that follow these type of coaches and these type of influencers, they don't really look into the women's lives that are promoting this. The same thing with the males. The males that promote a lot of these lifestyles, they don't practice what they preach. They marry single mothers. They always talk down on single mothers. They always talk down on, XYZ type of women. And a lot of the time they're frequenting the same type of women. Or you see them come on podcasts and they're with their girlfriend or their wife, and the woman's disrespecting them live on the podcast. But they'll have you believe, yeah, they're these masculine, this and that. So the online sphere absolutely is very polluted. But it's not to say that women like this really exist in real life. You meet chicks like this. If you're in a large major city, these type of chicks are all over the place.
When in actuality, that's not the case whatsoever, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of what I hear you saying is very, very negative towards men. And I happen to think that men are actually pretty incredible. And if you have time to look at all that they really do bring to the table, I think they bring so much more than we do. And because we are very emotionally minded, we think of me, and so on and so forth. And I know that's
Like
kind of
women, you're saying?
women, right? And I know it's kind of going away a little bit from what you're saying, but I just think that, if you're seeing particular algorithms, especially with social media, then we have this idea that all men are a certain way, when in actuality, that's not the case.
Yeah. I don't think all men are a certain way. I was just drawing kind of a correlation between men's better
I give you an example on why most women are low quality to average quality, right? When you look at, I like to always bring up bell curves, right? Look at this bell curve, okay? This is a bell curve. This is what a bell curve looks like, and it represents, percentages, statistics, whatever. You have average here in the middle. Average in this bell curve is representing 68%, right? You have 14% in the first tier of the lower end, second tier of the lower end 2%, third tier of the lower end is 0.1%, right? So if you add all this up, right, up until here, you have, because the higher end, right, you only have 14, 16, let's call it, so it's 16.1 in the higher end, right? So that means on the lower end, you have, what is that? 84, right? 83.9. So 83.9% is low end to average. And then you have this 16.1% is higher end, right? So when y'all is out here looking for these women and you just see trash hoe after trash after trash after trash hoe, there's a reason for that. It's because in anything you look at, there's a very small percentage of high end. And there's nothing wrong with being average. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying when you see chicks like this now, right? I'm not talking about visually, because any chick could look good. This look is a dime a dozen. All right. In any major city, you could find 4 million chicks that look like this. But it's the interior, the software, right? The software in her head, total trash, polluted, garbage. And when I say the majority of women are low end, right? Especially in a larger city, this is what I'm referring to. To find a woman who is actually, down to have a family and who respects men and, I'm not saying she's a doormat. I'm not looking for a doormat. I just want a chick that ethnically, usually, culturally, has these values, right? Because this chick, she's not it. Like I said, chicks that look like this are a dime a dozen in any city. It's not about looks. And men, as they get older, realize this. It's really not about looks.
betterment and improvement and getting in the gym, I see strongly correlated to red pill ideologies online.
But what is the problem with, and I don't actually know specifically what red pill ideology is. That like it's basically like the conservative view. Would you agree that it's more that route?
Yes.
And have you taken time to look at what the conservative view actually is when it comes to as society as a whole, and how it contributes to our children and the betterment of society?
Yes. I just kind of disagree with placing binary roles onto people. I think it's dangerous for society, and I think that's why the suicide rates are exponentially increasing. So I just kind of disagree with the idea that men should act a certain way and women should act a certain way. And when I see these types of things perpetuated online, I think that's dangerous, especially when it's kind of strung up as self-improvement. And
Especially nowadays, because look, I'm very unbiased, I'm very neutral. When you talk about nowadays, men need other men, older men, whatever, to show them the ropes, to show them how to behave. Because I could tell you, these single moms ain't showing these men how to behave. The problems you see in the black community, again, arose from single mothers being overwhelmingly the family structure in the black community. You see, in the white community in these countries, in America or in any Western countries in Europe, they never had this dynamic. White communities, they had family structure. It was always tight. I don't care if the women were working. Women used to work, that's fine. But women still used to come home and they would take pride in their family. They would respect their husband. They would take pride in what they can produce, what they can add to a family. And what women have to add is extremely valuable. But nowadays, these chicks are biting onto this new narrative that they can be strong and independent. And it did not work for black women. It did not work whatsoever. A lot of these black women now, they age out. upper 30s, 40s, they have zero prospects. As men get older, I always say, men don't get old, we just go broke. As men get older, their attractiveness is directly tied to, as I said, their emotional intelligence, their social intelligence, their wisdom, and their financial income earning power and earning potential. This is what is attractive to women. Of course, they like looks, but women are less visual than men. Men are visual creatures. We see and we get aroused. They hear and they get aroused. So right there's a huge difference. So these chicks that believe that they're going to be strong and independent, they're really biting a losing narrative. They don't even realize a lot of these chicks, they're so haughty, not hot like HAUGHTY. They're so full of themselves, they think they know it all, and they truly believe that this is a working model. They're so haughty that they don't look at the black community, because a lot of these chicks, they low key, they have some I'm not saying that they're racist, but they have a lot of white chicks. They're not looking to black chicks to teach them anything, right? Just inherently, they just don't believe that they could learn something from a black chick or a black chick's experience, because in the world they feel like they're on top, they're commanding, and they're running the show. So they think this is not going to happen to them. But I'm telling you, we go back to this bell curve, right? These chicks are going to be left out in the cold. Sure, they'll be able to work, they'll get jobs, they'll get careers, but later on in their life, they're going to realize a lot of their friends maybe got married. A lot of their friends, tied the knot, had kids, had families. And chicks that are radical like this, they're going to be left out in the cold, because visually, they're not going to have the leverage that they once had over men. Men aren't going to be checking so much for them. Men aren't going to be simping so hard for them. And that's what happens, sadly, to a lot of black women. They're going to see. Beast. I think there was a sound issue here. Let me just refresh this.
that binary or gender identity and you say this is how you should act, man up, I think that can be dangerous.
So you think telling men to weightlift is dangerous?
No,
All
not
men.
to weightlift, just like man up, like emotionally specifically.
I would disagree with that. I think that the reason that we don't live in a society with a bunch of masculine and strong men is because we haven't been telling them that for the past, since first wave feminism started. We haven't been telling men to man up and get in the gym and eat healthier
You
and
think
get a
men
job.
aren't as manly now, is what you're saying?
I would like everybody to weigh in on that.
Yeah, I was
agree.
just clarifying. I
Yeah,
agree
it's not
too. But
very-
yeah, I completely
Yeah.
agree, but I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing.
Really?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you want to get married one day.
It's not really on my.
If you, okay, hypothetically speaking, if you were to be, choosing your husband,
Mhm.
would you rather have a man who has a lot of muscle and he's
Yeah.
masculine and he provides for you and he takes care of the
Yes.
children and he's the head of the household? Or would you rather have somebody who's passive, feminine, weak-minded, doesn't really look super masculine and manly?
It's all personal preference. I with like a partner who we have equal responsibilities together. If we're talking physique, I do go for. Honestly, I want to say I want a tall man with muscles, but I tend to not go for that. But yes, like
Wait, let-
idealistic.
She wants a tall man with muscles. That's a shocker because she's been preaching that, that's a right wing type of dudes that are oppressive.
Wait, let's explore that a little bit. So you said your own preferences, right? So you
Yes.
said you would like a guy who's tall and with muscles.
Yes.
Okay. Have you dated tall men with muscles?
Maybe once.
Just once.
Yeah.
Okay. You were in a 3-year relationship. How would you describe him physically?
He was taller than me, and he went to the gym
So
regularly.
your longest relationship, was that the guy who was tall and muscular?
No, that wasn't the guy I was
Okay.
referencing.
Well, you said he went to the gym though.
Yes.
Okay. Well, when we say muscular, I mean, was he athletic? Was he in good shape?
Athletic. He was getting there. Yeah, he went to the gym regularly.
Okay.
But also, again, this is personal preference. I don't think we should force every man to have to be this protector of the household and stuff like that.
I think we should.
I think it leads to the downfall. Like we may not see, or people may not see this in the immediate, but I mean, it's already here. But long term, I mean, you're looking at really the downfall of society in a sense, not just that alone, but, and I don't disagree that like women should be able to do, all of these things as well. Right. However, we've taken women out of the home. Other people are taking care of our kids. I mean, I can tell you firsthand, even though there was another man in the house, I essentially raised my son and I'm an emotional person. And I can tell you without going into detail that I have an emotional 22-year-old
Mhm.
who is not a man. And we see it all around us. We have, this lack of masculinity and I think that it's being, looked at as like it's a bad thing to be masculine and a caretaker and to, even if you want your wife or your significant other to stay at home or things like that. I think when you look as a whole to society, you see why it's necessary. Even if, like for me, that means I might have to give up things I want because there are certain things that I like. Like I don't necessarily want to be at home all the time, but if it's for the greater good, then I would forego that. And I think we have to consider the betterment of society as a whole.
I believe it's also
These chicks don't look to the black community, Women like her, they don't even look at the black community what happened. They were promoted, all this stuff, strong, independent. And look at the black community. I'm telling you, you're gonna see in 50 years, the white community is gonna follow. Because this whole single mother mentality, it does not work. You can't raise men with single mothers. I go back to these prison statistics. Doesn't work. Majority of prison inmates had that dynamic, single mother household. Doesn't work for men.
because like we were talking about earlier, women are naturally more emotional, and then we know that men, they're just built stronger. So it's like men should work on that like privilege, like that benefit that they already have, that they're stronger so they can take care of the house, like whenever there's anything that's physical that's needed. And then women like us, we should be more with the kids, like in tune with them and like talking about these emotional things and helping them to overcome like certain troubles. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, Jazz, I think you're going to probably disagree with her. She said, I'm just repeating it, that women are more emotional. Do you disagree with that?
No, I think women are more emotional.
But wouldn't that be in
Do you agree or
contradiction of your, hold
disagree?
on, wouldn't that be in contradiction of your whole like rejection of the gender binary?
So there's a biological and genetic predispositions between the genders. So there are differences between men and women biologically and genetically.
I'm very surprised that she's taking that position.
The way we think, our
Okay.
testosterone, our hormones, sure. But I think nurture has a lot more to do with how we turn out rather than our nature. But I think the way that gender exists right now in such binary roles, we're perpetuating.
So which part of she thinks that nurture is more in play here? Which part of nurture makes men overwhelmingly 90, probably high 90s percentile as roofers? How many female roofers are there?
Our nature. And I think that's dangerous because there are a lot of gender identities that exist with outside of the binary. So I think it's very limiting to the human experience to say that because we're naturally this way, we should exasperate those differences and not kind of go outside of this binaries because we can. We just
Yeah.
choose not to and think it's better.
So essentially, do you care like about the traditional gender roles that we have already? Like, does it matter for a man to be like going to the gym and stuff like that? And does it matter for a woman to be at home cooking, taking care of the kids, where it's like the roles can be switched and there's like nothing wrong with that?
I see a lot of relationships where the man is kind of the stay-at-home husband and roles are reversed. There's a really popular couple on TikTok, lady with red hair, and her husband like cooks for her all day, and she pays him to do that. And I think if that works for them, that works for them. But I do want to go back to something you were saying about how you raised your son on your own, and you're a woman, and we're more emotional. There are statistics to back that up. That children that are raised with just the mom in the house aren't as well equipped socially in society as if they're raised with just a single dad. And I don't think that's because women are incapable of giving that. I think the way society is constructed, women have to rely on men so much that
The way society is constructed, you see, women like her, they wanna do it all. They think they could do it all. And the thing is, men can't do it all either. That's where these chicks fall short. They believe that women could do it all. Neither gender can do it all. So where women are most valued in terms of child rearing is 0 to 5 years old. Mothers are needed in that 0 to 5 year old formative year. They're more predisposed to having higher empathy. You know, their voices are softer, right? These are things that are more pleasing to children, right? We're designed like this. Men and women have these differences for a reason. You know, there's a reason that the woman carries the child and she is the first imprint on the child because of how women are designed. And that's a beautiful thing.
when the man is missing, then we kind of fail in a sense. And I think that that's wrong. I think we have just as much as an ability to raise somebody, but in the way that we structure gender now in society, it makes us kind of incapable and unable to.
I don't disagree that we are not capable of raising children on our own.
I want to know, what is this structure she's referring to? This is not something that's set up by society. This is something that is in men and women's design. Men have their strengths, women have their strengths.
But well, I'll speak for myself.
Yeah.
So I'm more likely as a mother, as a woman, to give into things that a father would say, no, things are going to be this way and this is how it's going to go. Whereas I am going to cave into things, or because my marriage was a particular way, I felt like I had to make up for those things.
I love seeing a level-headed woman on these types of panels. You know, this woman is older, she's more mature, and that's another thing. I make a lot of edgy posts about older women. It's not all older women, right? It's these older women that never matured, never dealt with a family. This chick is mature. This is what you want a woman to be. You know, in their youth, they have different attributes than when they get older. But a lot of these women, when these women are like her, they suffer from arrested development because they become 35, 40, 45, and they never mature. They're still out clubbing, they're still out playing the field, they're still on Tinder. They've never matured. This chick understands the value of a woman who's matured. In those younger years, that's why they're more, you know, this is nature that dictates this. This is their biology. That's why they're more suited to having children in their younger years. In their 20s, they're a lot more suited. They have a lot less risk of pregnancy impacting the mother's health and the child's health in their younger years. There's a reason for this, because as women mature, they age out of that role. And there's nothing wrong with having a career, you know, but why can't you start your career later on? You're only going to have to deal with these children for 12 years, 15 years, you know. You're going to send them to high school, 11, 12 years, the kids are out of your hair. You start in your 20s, by the time you're 35, you could start a thriving career and you'll be more mature. You'll be more suited to actually deal with a corporate world. A 20-year-old with her high heels, she gets smoked in a corporate environment. Smoked. Because that's not a woman's strength when she's young. A woman's strength when she's young is her physical beauty. This is biology that has set this up. This is not society. This is biology. When a woman gets older, and look at how this woman carries herself, this is more suitable for a working environment. This is more suitable for a corporate. Look at these chicks that become real estate agents at 21 years old. No one's buying a house from a 21-year-old chick. No one's taking a 21-year-old real estate agent seriously.
By allowing things I should not have allowed. I mean, there's definitely, mothers out there who can be very strong, logical, make those decisions and stick to those decisions. But by nature, we are not necessarily like that. And I mean, I can see it with my daughter's father. I mean, there's times where I think, oh, he's being mean. And then, but over the last few years, as I've come into realizing that there's order for a purpose, I see where it's okay if dad sounds mean, or if he's more demonstrative and things like that. So I've come to actually appreciate that and understand the need for it, because I couldn't do that on my own. Yes, there are times where my kid does something wrong and I'm going to raise my
That's the binary. That's the balance. That's the yin and the yang. You want the woman to be caring, loving, have high empathy, and you want the man to be the no nonsense, the logic. One can't work without the other. There needs to be the balance. Men are too hard on things, right? They require that softer element to have more nuance, to have balance. And women aren't suited to deal with the world on their own. They're just not suited to do that. But women like this, they believe that is somehow pseudo structured, like society built it that way to suppress women. No, society has just molded around men and women's strengths.
my voice and I'm going to be very firm and this is going to be what it is. But ultimately, generally speaking, a man serves a different purpose, right? We complement each other. And so I do think that, and I mean, I could go into, the whole feminist, the origins of feminism, not the origins, but some of the reasons behind it is pulling the woman out of the home and creating this disharmony for our children. And again, I went to school, I worked, full time. I was not a stay-at-home mom. And if I had it to go back to do again, despite the fact that, I would have craved more intellectual stimulation than being at home all day, I would have done it because I think ultimately it would have been the best thing to do for, at least for my son.
Yeah.
With my daughter, I would, well, situation's different, but I would love to do it for her as well.
I just would disagree that it's purely nature is the reason that these are the outcomes. I think we perpetuate our genetic differences so much in societal roles that women are incapable in certain areas, like you said, to say no and to do the dad role. And I think it's because we push those roles so much when if we kind of destructured the way that we had gender identities, then women.
This is why other cultures, they come to these Western countries and they don't assimilate. I used to not understand, because back in the day, like my grandparents on both sides, when they immigrated, the culture was different in Western countries. In England, in Europe, in America, in North America, the culture was different. The culture was a patriarchal culture, and people shared the values of yesteryear, where the mother was in the home, she nurtured the family. It's not that she was a slave. She was proud of her role. She nurtured that is a serious role. You're preparing the new people of this world. Children are the future. So the women essentially were training the next generation. That is a serious role. So if anything, these feminists are actually the ones oppressing women, because they're taking that role away from women. They're trying to make women into men. And women are not men. They never will be. And they cannot compete. In the things they're trying to compete in, they cannot compete.
Men could be a whole person in a way, and men could also cater to people emotionally and on a different
But
level.
I think that it's always been this way. Like I'll even grant that if you go way back into ancient societies, if you want to talk about genders and such, there's old or ancient societies that had multiple genders, right? But setting that aside, if you look back at all throughout time, women had a particular role, men had a particular role. And it's actually, instead of, I think it gets demonized, but in actuality, it's a really beautiful thing. And we're trying to change it to fit this new box that's been created. And I just think order exists for a reason. I'm not, nothing against particular people or anything like that. But I can say that, and it doesn't have to be my age. It could just be, the fact that I've learned a little bit more over the last few years. I just think it all serves a purpose. Once you see things, they all.
This chick is extremely polite as well. That's the thing. That's the age. That's the maturity. She's not trying to sound preachy to this chick. She's like, oh, it doesn't have to be my age. But she knows that this chick's just tuning out. This chick doesn't care. Look at how she sits. Like, look at this. This is gross. It's gross.
Fall in line instead of trying to like having a Rubik's Cube and trying to make all these pieces fit when they don't really fit. It just seems to be that way. I don't,
I would like to go back to what you said about pushing traditional roles on men and women is dangerous. But we actually, I mean, in the past, I don't know, 20 years or so, we haven't been pushing those traditional roles on men and women. We've actually been doing the opposite, and society has gone downhill. So how can you say that pushing traditional roles are dangerous when we've done the opposite and no good has come from it?
In what ways do you think we're all of a sudden not pushing gender norms and roles onto people? And in what ways do you think society is being negatively affected?
I mean, so as far as not pushing traditional roles on people, right? Like I think as women, we are told now in this century that our career, our degree, our title is more valuable than being a wife and a mother. We're told that like we essentially have no value. I mean, and I can attest to that because I post all the time about my lifestyle on social media, and I post that I don't have a college degree, and I don't.
That's what I'm saying. These people, they like to pretend that they're so open-minded, they're so loving of everyone's perspective. But when it gets down to it, women like this are bullied. You know, I'm not saying you have to promote your lifestyle on others. If you believe in the traditional lifestyle, that's fine. You don't have to try and change someone. You can never change a chick like this. This chick is cooked. But women like this are dragged through the mud online. And these same people, and a lot of the time it's men, because these men are bitch made and they, you know, they're all allies, these male feminists. And they will they won't think twice to drag a woman like this through the mud. You know, to degrade her, to call her names, to say she's dumb because she didn't get college educated, when really she's fulfilling the role, the true role of a woman, which is a beautiful role, which is training. I don't know how that got demeaned, how that got diminished, how training the next generation got diminished. Women are literally training the future humans that will reign over the earth. That's an amazing role. You could make an argument, and I'm not even joking. You could make an argument that that's more valuable than what men do. Just generating income, that's death. It leads nowhere. It's a dead end. If it weren't for women and what they do, wow, I'm actually getting woke here. I never thought of it this way before, to be honest. If it weren't for what women did, which is promote promote values, pass on the values onto the next generation, what men do wouldn't even be necessary. Think about that. Why would you need to do anything if you weren't feeding you know, a machine, if you will? You know, women are raising the future. Without women, there's no future. And men work hard to support that. These women, they want to be men. It's crazy. And you see it. I always go back to the Black community. You see what happens when women are not there to fulfill their supportive role of children, to fulfill their role of educating children, to make sure that these individuals contribute to the future instead of take, instead of destroy, constructive instead of destructive.
Don't necessarily have like a stable career. And I get a lot of backlash for that. And a lot of people will say, well, you don't really have any like value to you. You're not smart. You don't have a degree. You don't have a title. And on men, I mean, you said it, like they're basically told that they have toxic masculinity if they want to be strong men and they want to be masculine. So I actually think that we've done the opposite and we haven't pushed traditional roles on men and women. That's why you see women becoming more masculine and you see men becoming more feminine.
So do you think that all women should be in the house and taken care of?
I don't necessarily think that all women need to be
No, because some women are not cut out for it. Like this chick, she's not cut out for it. This chick can, you know, lay by the wayside. She could do her career. She'll get her Komodo dragon neck at 37, you know, and she'll just die alone with her cats. Her cats will eat her body. That actually happened. I believe it was in the UK. A woman, she had no family, no one to check on her, no one around her. She was old as hell. All her friends obviously got married off. They had their own lives, their own family. They ain't worried about her. These people are old. And she passed away, and her cats ate her decaying body. When they found her like a month later, she was half eaten by her cats.
home wives and mothers. I mean, in
That's
Savannah's
the
perfect
future right here.
world, I wouldn't make women go work 9-to-5 corporate jobs that are
Yeah.
literally just not good for their hormones. They're being,
Mhm.
you know, bossed around by a boss all day. I don't think it's healthy for women. So in my perfect world, if women wanted to work, they would either go the entrepreneurial route or they would work until they became mothers and then stayed home with the children. But there's a lot of evidence that moms that stay home with their children, the children generally do better in society.
Mhm.
So I would say, yes, it's important once you have kids to figure out how to stay home with kids. I don't think that we need 2 incomes in today's society. I think that, you know, we're a society that chases after so many materialistic things and, oh, we need 2 cars and we need this crazy mortgage and we need designer bags and we need 3 vacations a year. I don't think that that's 100% necessary, but society pushes it. it to where both men and women have to have an income to raise a family. So yeah, I think traditional roles would actually help families. It would bring back the nuclear family to society. I mean, I think it's you see the birth rate, like it's plummeted. That's not helpful for any society. If it keeps plummeting, we're never going to actually like grow our population.
What's good about how these women think is they're not going to procreate, or likely they won't. Some will, right? But a lot of them don't value that. So what's great about that is their mentality is not being passed down. I hope these bitches get extinct.
We'll have to move it on a little bit, but we can come back to some of that later. I just want to finish up really quick that thing we were reacting to earlier, where the girl was getting the woman doused the guy for the misogynistic comment. Quick reaction from the rest of the panel. Go ahead. What do you think on that?
Was that a boyfriend or just a
I
friend?
think it's just
Wow, this IG is blown up. Let me take a quick pause here to look at this IG. This is my IG here. Just to give you an idea of, my posts and what happens with these posts. It's wild. So, I post some edgy stuff. I like to push buttons. Look at this. Western woman logic. Why would I want to cook clean and not work when I can cook clean and work? So let's look at these comments. This chick's like, women have always worked, dear. Unbelievable. I can't see the comments because I'm not logged in. Or the replies, I should say. Another man struggling with the concept of consent. Okay. They want their own money, bruh. See, this is a dude. This is an ally. A feminist ally. Male feminist. And these dudes, I don't know if women realize, but men just act like this because they're trying to get at the box. That's the joke. Men that talk like this, they're just trying to smash. Y'all so dumb, you let them hit. These are dudes that don't have options. They don't know how to get at chicks. They don't know how to stand on business. And they think that by parroting and mimicking the talking points of feminism, that they're gonna get some box. And they don't realize that these chicks are nasty. These chicks will smash a dude at 10 a.m. and they'll come see you at 3 p.m. They want their own money, bro. They like having control over their own lives. It really ain't that hard. Okay, buddy. Good luck. I don't know why man can't choose to be house husbands instead. Okay. You see, they want to reverse the roles so badly. No man is offering all that income so that his wife could just cook and clean. He wants her to cook, clean, and work while he just goes to work 16 hours a week and plays video games until he passes out. Look, if you're playing video games, you don't deserve what I'm talking about. I'm talking about men who work hard and men who are worth it, right? I'm not talking about men who sit around and play video games. But this is how they like to muddy the water. It's about the choice. Yeah, sure. Y'all have fallen for 50s propaganda. Okay. As a wife and mother that works and takes care of the home, not everyone wants to be a wife and mother, and some women benefit society in other ways. Absolutely, I agree. But the thing is, the argument I'm making is that it's promoted to not be a mother. Cleaning and cooking for two people. And the thing is, the people that promote this is going to be a hot take, maybe a bit of a dangerous take. But the people that promote this don't believe this. You look at certain ethnicities, I'm not going to say what race or what people, but these women get married extremely young and they normally have children, so they're promoting this lifestyle on y'all, but they're not following that playbook. Cleaning and cooking for two people is maybe more work than just cooking for yourself. Plus, when you only cook for yourself, you don't have to consider their preferences and cleaning up. So again, this is all the selfish mentality. Self. You don't have to consider their preferences. That's wild. Because women in the past, they used to care about their family. You don't want to force a bitch. A lot of these dudes, they're like, oh, pimp hands strong. They want to talk about how they're going to smack a bitch. You don't want that dynamic. You want a chick that's happy to serve the family because she knows the benefit that it brings. And she knows it's a reflection on her. And she knows, her distant family, her distant relatives, her cousins, her aunts, her uncles. Women used to take pride in that. Not anymore. All these posts are genuinely borderline delusional, pushing agendas. Oh yeah, I'm the one pushing agendas. Okay, for sure. They want the world for free, want men to pay bills and take care of them, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so this guy could be an incel. Who knows? Because don't get me wrong, I understand there are incels. There are guys that are abusive, 100%. But most traditional guys are not that. They're just trying to have a normal life. Like they just want to work hard. And again, men that play video games 20 hours a day, I'm not saying that they deserve that. I'm not saying, there are a lot of these online guys, these podcasts or these dating coaches or whatever, they're all trying to convince their audience that they deserve 10 on 10 models. I don't agree. And the same with the female dating coaches. They have women following them that are 500 pounds that don't take care of themselves, and they think they deserve a guy that makes $2 million a year. Delusional. It's because they want their financial freedom. A lot of people stay married today and don't get divorced due to the issue of living alone. You can't even survive with one decent income. And again, I disagree because this is all people's material interests. People want, these women in these large cities, they first of all, they want to live in a large city, higher living cost. They want to have all the designer stuff. They want a designer purse, they want designer shoes, they want to have a higher end vehicle. They want to take trips to Tulum and to Greece and travel around Europe. Mind you, Europe is much cheaper these days. I would never go personally, but I'm not contributing to. Anyway, that's another story. But this whole you can't survive on one decent income. I look at because I'll go through immigrant communities and I see these people on the weekend. A lot of these families, because they're immigrants, their degrees are not transferable from their countries, so they're working low income jobs. You'll have two people together pulling in 47K for the household, 55K for the household, and these people have a great quality of life. In the summer, they're in the park. The weekends, barbecuing. You see families all together. You see groups of 50 people enjoying themselves in the park. Meanwhile, these people that are making 100 and they have hella kids. Meanwhile, these people that are making 180K and the wife makes 94K, they're like, oh, we can't afford to have children. So should I be overworked with no pay at all, or should I be overworked and get compensation? What? And this is a dude again. These simp ass dudes trying to get at the puss. West women are just garbage. Yeah, they are. And I'm going to hammer this point home until the death of me because it's not women are garbage. There's no woman hate over here. There's no hate. This is West women. They are trash. They were 75 cents, $75. Look at how predatory and smelly that man's face is as well. You know he's going to die alone and he turns women. I mean, hey, that's your opinion. I could die alone, but I highly doubt that. Because again, what do women value? They value income, they value social intelligence, they value wisdom, they value network. These are strengths that men get, right? As they get older. And I work hard. I don't even own a video game console. But people get triggered. What? Are men purposely retarded or are they just outing themselves and openly intentionally as seeing women as objects and slaves? That's crazy. I don't know where you got that idea that I see women as objects and slaves. In fact, one could argue that you are objectifying yourself more by having the sexual liberation that you guys promote. Who's objectifying you guys? Not me. I'm the one saying that you should be discretionary in the men you choose to smash. I'm the one saying that you should have some value of yourself. But okay. You see, they just invert. This is, and this stuff is biblical too. It all ties back to inversion, displaying what is wrong as right and what's right as wrong. That's work when you're doing it for a whole family and not just yourself. That's what builds. These people are actually nutty. And I'm getting a lot of these comments in because I did direct it. The hashtags I put were to like these types of groups. So I did kind of fan the flames a bit, That's why I'm getting some crazy comments. But this is peak entertainment. Freedom, a job is freedom from the tyranny of men. I'll never clean up after my fiance. Poor guy. You see, like, this is the simp mentality. These guys, they see a good looking chick and they think like that's what they can get. These guys don't realize because they're in this Western civilization. These guys meet these chicks at school. They're trash. These chicks are trash. Why would a man cook and clean and work when he could just cook, clean, and not work? So see, she's trying to flip it this one. It's like, okay, I get what you're trying to do, but that's not the point I'm making. Sure, a man could cook, clean, and not work. Sure, he could have that set up. But the point I'm trying to make is that men are going out to work, and no matter what, you got to cook and clean. Whether you live alone, you got to cook and clean, right? The argument I'm making is that women are still going to have to cook and clean, but they have to work in excess to that. Another underlying point I'm trying to make is that these women are selfish. You see, because they can't even fathom the idea of caring about a man enough to take pride in giving to the family. They can't fathom that. And that's why I say these women are damaged. These women are trash. These types of women, not all, these specific women, right, that have these feminist ideals, there's no, you can't build a family with that because they don't care about anyone but themselves. These are the types of chicks. Like I grew up with I was lucky enough to have, great aunts around me. These women were in their 90s and they would tell me because when I would go over to visit them, I would always put my phone away and I would really be invested in them. I would talk to them, and they would tell me, "Oh, the other niece and nephews or the cousins, like they don't pay them any mind, right? Because this new mentality is like you just care about yourself. You're always in your own stuff. You don't care about anyone. This is hilarious. The boys are coming in, let me tell you. But modern women, these new Western women, they don't care about anyone but themselves. So just how I brought in the great aunts, how that's relevant is because family is everything. That's your wealth. And people used to value that. But now, everything is so fast paced and this stuff is promoted that you should just not care about the people around you. So they can't fathom investing in a family because for them it's like, oh, I'm gonna build my career, me, 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 me. And this is also promoted in the whole abortion culture. It's like, oh, I'm gonna have an abortion because it's gonna impede on my career. It's gonna, it's gonna put my career at risk. It's always me, 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 me. Nigga never got a pussy in his life and he's making it. See, this is another dude. And this is very prevalent in the black community. A lot of these black dudes, this is how they behave. This is how they behave. These type of dudes that will get out here and try to shoot someone over a chick. These dudes are lost. Zero masculinity. And why? I go back to they had no father in the house. They had no masculine influence, these people. They had no masculine influence. This is mama. This is mama talking. You see, when a man, let me put you on some game. When a man grows up and it's only his mother in his ear, a lot of these women are bitter. Could you just imagine if this chick, has a son by herself? The type of stuff that she's gonna implant in that young boy's head, she's gonna be implanting gynocentrism, female supremacy in the young boy's head. So then, when these n-words grow up, this is how they behave. These same dudes robbing the Apple store. Mama, just check your account. I think you hate women 100%. So this is a back to back. This is a combo here because normally it's one or the other. Normally it's incel or GAY, but this person went for the double up. One isn't slavery. So these women really believe that this is slavery. They really believe it's slavery. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. So, I put these stuff on Instagram. I'm a lot more edgy on Instagram than I am on YouTube. Because on YouTube, I actually have, real conversations. It's a little more intimate. I actually share, some of my thoughts on YouTube. But on IG, I like to poke and fan the flames because a lot of these people they're mentally unwell, and it's good to get the conversations going. I get to feed people to my videos and whatever. But yo, but something about the comment section, I won't say that this is representative of how most women think, because normally in general the people that comment are a certain type of person. I'm not saying that they're necessarily deranged, but they're more inclined to being deranged. They're more outward type of people to take to have the gall to comment, especially some crazy stuff like what they comment. But I'm not saying that's representative of most women. Most women are pretty chill, pretty chill. But it's just that this culture is really detrimental.
They were hanging out. It was just a friend.
Yeah, I don't agree with what she did.
All right.
She kept his mouth shut. Yeah.
Your thoughts?
Not appropriate, but he probably said it to get a reaction.
Sure. Okay. Your thoughts?
I think she proved that she can't drink with the boys.
It's a good point. Good point, Savannah. What about you?
I don't know the context, but I'd like to think I would have laughed and just gone to go make the sandwich or whatever it was he asked for.
Oh, you would have made the actual sandwich. All right. What about you? Your thoughts, Carla?
I think she needs to work on her communication skills. Homegirl needs to buy my book.
Probably just a little.
That's crazy. So what they're referring to is at the beginning of the stream, they showed a woman in Australia who lit a man on fire, doused him in gasoline, lit him on fire. He suffered burns. He was in a burn unit. I believe he was in an induced coma just because he said, go make a sandwich. And the guy was drunk. He just made a remark. She doused him in flames.
Probably work on the communication skills. What do you think?
I'd ignore it and I'd be more concerned for his safety.
Okay, there you go. And then there was one other, Mary, if you can pull it up there. So the comments, though, on this were atrocious. Pull up the.
Wow, that's great. I just did my IG comments. Let's see the comments on this woman who doused a guy in gasoline and lit him on fire over a quote unquote misogynist remark. Let's see the comments just to show you that we're not making this up. I'm not making this up. We deal with this every day. Chicks like this.
Instagram one. We'll go window tab. Just hit the pause on the video. Scroll, zoom, make it bigger. All right, then scroll down so we can see the comments. All right. I'm going to read them. One anti-misogyny assaulted, blah, blah, blah. He told her to stay in the kitchen, so she cooked him.
Literally.
90,000 likes. Scroll down. Okay. Well, what was he wearing? Did he try to tell her to stop? 44,000.
That's good.
Okay. When you use a group A joke with a group B, I'm not sure what that means, but okay.
Most close people retarded
technically.
anymore.
This would have not happened if she stayed on the kitchen, though. Okay, scroll down. Why would he get drunk like that alone? He should have known better.
What does that mean? Like he lit himself.
Just reminder, guys.
Oh.
This guy. Okay, I'll read some more. He basically did tell her to cook. Shouldn't have worn flammable clothes. He obviously wanted it. She's an icon, and she is the moment.
See, this is how these women see you, man. That's what I'm saying. Like, I meet chicks like this all the time, and I stay away from them. I'm not trying to change them. I'm not trying to make them into something they're not. But they're literally dangerous. You see it here. She lit the guy on fire because he told her to make a sandwich. She lit him on fire. And then all these chicks, they're applauding this. She's an icon and she's the moment. 244 likes. She lit a guy on fire. He was in a burn unit. He was in an induced coma. Bet he won't say it again. 14,500 likes. You see, and this is what's promoted. I'm telling you, this is dangerous. It's straight dangerous. These people are psychotic.
Mind you, most of these have like 10,000 plus likes. Bet he won't say that again. I hope it doesn't ruin her life. She has such a bright future ahead of her. Lies. She was with me the whole day. But what was he wearing? But what was he wearing again? 8,000 likes. 8,000 likes. Stop defending her. This
Just proves again. This is why feminism is evil. It's literally evil. I don't think I could demonstrate it better than this. It's right in front of you. These are evil people, evil ideologies. And what it comes from is directly evil. The mythology behind it is evil. And they champion that. They champion Lilith. The idea of Lilith is pure evil. Going against the man, and I'm not talking about a male. There are a lot of males that want to force women to do things. That's not what I'm talking about. Going against a man is evil because a man stands in truth. A man leads. He doesn't boss around. He's not controlling. He leads. Right? Trying to go against the leader is counterproductive. It's inherently evil. It doesn't build. It doesn't. You can't. Nothing can come about trying to go against the leader. When you have a leader and you try to go the other way, I'm not talking about someone who is controlling again. I'm not talking about someone who didn't merit their leadership role. I'm talking about someone who is a true leader. Going against that is evil. And you see it playing out. I'm not making this up. You see it. You see it.
Or I
Stop
can't like
defending
all the
her. I
comments.
can't like all the comments. 8,500 likes. You see it.
Scroll down. Men throw acid all the time, but when one gets a little charred, okay. Scroll down. But he was asking.
And these chicks are laughing. Look at this. Dolly Ray. Look at that chick. Black chick. Typical. You know, this is heavily promoted in the black community. That's why you think all these black men are going for white chicks. Why do you think? Black women get so angry when they see a black dude with a white chick. But it is way higher percentage of black chicks that think like this. In America, Western. I'm not saying, you know, shout out to my Africans, shout out to Caribbean girls. But this stuff, it's disgusting.
Asking for it.
What's that emoji?
Scroll down. If he didn't want to be set on fire, he shouldn't have worn something flammable. Scroll down. I'm getting carpal tunnel in my thumb from liking all these comments. Mind you, these are all women, by the way. Wait, did he say no? What was he wearing? This diva. We'll do 3 more, I guess. Scroll down. Scroll down. Scroll down. She was cooking for real. What was he wearing? No, I don't want to be set on fire. I think my objection to this, I know these people are joking, is typically there's like a lot of situations where women are consenting to having consensual sex. There's not a lot of situations where people are consenting to have someone lit on fire. And further, even if you do consent to being lit on fire, the perpetrator of that is still going to be subject to some sort of criminal penalty, regardless if there was consent or not.
Yeah.
Although you can make some arguments. But whatever. Scroll down. Did he loudly and clearly state that? Okay, anyways, you get the idea. The comments, that's just on the Instagram. It's been posted all over TikTok, all over Twitter. I think the comments are egregious. They're horrible. They're disgusting. Some of you guys were laughing.
This chick's laughing, but I kind of like this chick. This chick's pretty funny. Honestly, I don't think she's not like this chick. This chick, she's edgy. You know, she does kind of like what I do on IG, on Instagram. She's trying to be edgy, trying to be an edgelord. But she's not as polluted as this. I can read it right away. This chick, yeah, I know she got some fire behind her, no pun intended. But this chick is all bad.
But I mean, like,
It's
let's remember here, there's a guy who got,
ridiculous.
like, this guy's going to be permanently injured and disabled for life. Like, burns are serious.
They're
Like,
horrible.
you're disfiguring, you're going to have permanent pain issues. So just like to point that out.
I think I was
You guys-
laughing because it was mine, and this probably isn't going to get me any likes. I don't mean that kind of likes, but
Sure.
because it's mocking all the false accusations from women for SA.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Not because the man was
It's irony.
what
You're
happened.
saying.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if that makes it any better, but that's
It's just the internet.
It's so silly and ridiculous.
Everyone,
That's why we're laughing.
they want to get likes on their comment. That's what it really
Yeah,
is.
like I don't
You see that chick? I just called it. This chick's an edgelord. I like this chick. This chick is like, I see her like a female version of me. This is what I do. She's probably a lot more neutral. This chick is a lot more neutral. She's more normal. She's just a sicko, you know? Aren't we all? But this chick really believes this stuff. This chick is whack.
I don't think the comedy is about taking her side. It's about finding the irony, that
Yeah.
using that kind of humor.
I think a lot of people actually are taking her side.
Oh, well, some-
really.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
100%. These chicks really believe this. And that's why I say, when y'all out here trying to cold approach, trying to date these type of women, you don't know what you're dealing with. Y'all just see a pretty face and y'all get into trouble. Because a woman that thinks of men like that, she's gonna put you through hell. She's gonna put you through hell. I'm telling you, y'all, and men. As a final note, I'm gonna sign off here. Y'all need to make sure that you working hard and you're holding your end of the bargain as well. You need to lead by example because you can't expect to pull a 10 on 10, docile, submissive, nice girl that's gonna listen to everything. She's gonna clean and cook. It's men that did not live up to the man shit. Men that did not live up to our side of the bargain is partly to blame for women like this. I don't even like calling these chicks women. These are females. Women are to be a woman, it implies that you have, first of all, you have to be an adult female, but also it's a developmental thing. These chicks that suffer from arrested development that don't have 1 ounce of maternal instinct, those are not women. These feminists, these are beings. These are individuals that are possessed by the demon of Lilith. And they're proud of that. They literally champion Lilith in these feminist circles. So I don't consider these people, I don't talk to them. I don't want to be around them. I don't want them around me. And y'all need to keep these type of chicks away from you. But when you outside on the street trying to cold approach a chick and you see a chick looking
Oh
like
my
this,
God.
you think that this is a prize. This is not a prize. This is 75 cents on the open market. Let me tell you. All right. Bob Barker. You don't even bid $1 for that because you would overbid. You would lose. Anyway, that being said, guys, thank you very much for joining. Hope you guys enjoy the new mic, new audio, new lights, new studio lights. We out here. We balling now, you know. And we're gonna have more and more updates to the studio, more and more updates to the content. We ain't going anywhere, boys. You see this gynocracy is dangerous. Bitches be lighting us on fire. But y'all gotta step it up. Get outside, you know, lower the rate of video gaming. And find yourself a chick that's actually worthy and lead her, you know? Don't let her down. All right, take care, guys.